in the chat where all that information is stored right now. And we encourage you to go back and listen to the recording again. I think what you're going to find is you're going to get a lot more out of it than you did the first time. The agenda, I did post the agenda in the chat, but just to review it real quickly, the first thing that we're going to cover is how the military is using social media to recruit young people, followed by social media best practices, analytics, a few short presentations on analytics, Instagram, YouTube, and at the end we've allocated 30 minutes for questions. We can see how it goes. We're planning to go from 2 to 3:45, so we'll see. So, Michelle, you are up.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Nice to see some old friends like Michael Cervantes and Rick. So my name is Michelle Cohen. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm what you could call an older Gen Xer. I would think I was born in the first year of Gen X. And I'm a teacher in LA Unified School District. Now I'm working as an advisor, which is like a pseudo counselor in the Division of Adult Education. And I got active in counter-recruiting with CAMS and then with Project Great Futures that I helped start in 2004. And I haven't been so active in the last few years, but I have been doing a lot of research and joining NNOMY when I can. And I'm definitely not an online gamer. I learned about Twitch. I saw my first Twitch channel for the first time this week. So I'm kind of thinking through the lens of someone like that. If you are someone who already knows about all this stuff, please don't feel like I'm talking down to you or anything. I just think there are other people like me trying to do this work who need to learn about it. And I use Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but not that much. And lately I've been spending a lot of time on YouTube, kind of allowing myself to be carried along by the algorithms to see where it takes me. And I'll talk a little bit more about that during my presentation. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay.
There we go.
It's fine if you don't see me, as long as you can hear me. Okay, so this is called Military Recruiting in 2020 with a social media focus. I'm going to go pretty quickly. A couple times I'm going to ask you, hey, what do you think? And ask you to type your answers in the chat. I can't see the chat box, so I don't know if someone's trying to get attention, but apparently Jesus is going to be watching that, or Libby. And we can have those recorded for later when we have time for questions.
Jesus is monitoring the chat.
Okay, thank you. All right, so yeah, social media focus. Today I plan to talk about kind of an update to recent trends in social media use, an update on what's going on with YouTube, a little bit on TikTok, and talking about esports and online gaming and Twitch. In 2018, I did a presentation with Libby at our CR Summit in Chicago. And in 2017, I found this data about the use of social media platforms among what we call Gen Z, which are people born between the mid-90s to the mid-2000s. And it's good to remember the target group for the Army are on average 21. So this is 2017. This week, I did some more research and I found the favorite social platforms to use now among different age groups. So take a minute and just study this for a minute, especially the 13 to 25-year-olds. Okay. Who's on top, and then I'm going to pop back to the previous screen. Okay, so I'm going to ask you in a minute, what do you notice has changed in the last 3 to 4 years? Please type your ideas in the chat. Like I said, I can't see them, but it's just a minute to kind of think about it. And Jesus, if you want to read any that seem interesting, or let me know when people have stopped. I'm going to just do this for about 30 seconds.
So Libby says the Twitter seems to gone down, and then we have other people typing.
Okay. So in my notes, I had typed, I noticed that TikTok is very newly popular. Snapchat has gone down in popularity, and Instagram is #1 among 13 to 25-year-olds, and the both of those age groups that we saw earlier. And I thought it was interesting to note with YouTube that it's #2 among those younger teenagers, 13 to 18, but it's #5 among the older half, 19 to 25. So we're going to talk about YouTube in a minute, and Instagram. So the growth in Instagram, I focused on Instagram because time is short and it's #1 in those age groups. So when I did the presentation in 2018, I had captured the number of followers and posts from these branches that you can see. So you can see the growth in the number of followers. I'm not going to read it to you because I know you know how to read. But one thing I want to say is that these are just the official accounts. Each branch has its own official social media, and then there's lots and lots of copycats and wannabes and recruiters too. So you can see the huge growth in the past few years. These are a few recruitment-focused Instagrams I found. I know it can be really hard to see. These are tiny, but we have the Army Recruiting Command is the one on the left. They have 1,200 posts and 55.6 thousand followers, just that one page. And the middle one is a Star Army Recruiter. He has over 7,400 posts and about 24,000 followers as of this morning when I put this up. The Marines Recruiting Command has over 1,100 posts and 1.1 million followers. For my 2018 presentation, I introduced this guy called Kid Thunder 2. He's the first military vlogger whose videos I had started watching. And the title of this video, if you can't see it, is 5 Reasons to Not Join the Military. So at the time I was naive and I didn't know what he and a lot of the other active military influencers were really doing. I thought, oh, here's a guy who's unhappy in the Army and he wants to help other people. In 2018, I also found these slides. These are all the same guy, Kid Thunder. So after talking about why you shouldn't join the Army, then you get the algorithm that brings you to these. So you see the dates on here 1 month ago, 4 weeks ago. Those are actually from 2018. So they've gotten a lot more views since then. Oh, he's a recruiter, big surprise. Okay, so that actually surprised me when I first saw it because I had been searching for videos about people trying to do counter-recruiting on YouTube. There are hundreds or thousands of videos like these online. They're really similar. They look like regular service members who are sharing their ups and downs, things they don't like about the military life, and some of them will even come out and say, I really wish I hadn't joined. But then when you watch the videos, they really present a very positive picture overall. And they always end up showing desired things like a great body, money, cars. Those kind of videos really outnumber the ones that are truly critical looking. And all of these influencers who have these really slick looking videos have multiple social media accounts, and they encourage all the viewers to follow. And they want viewers to contact them in messages, and they reply to almost all the comments. Let's see. Countless conversations are happening in the comments under these videos. This one, if you can't read it, this guy says, I'm 17 and I'm considering the Marines. I was raised by a single mom, so I don't really have money for college. My earlier days in high school, I didn't care about my grades, which was a huge mistake, etc. And people respond to him under his comment. So this same recruiter, he has 18,500 subscribers as of earlier this week. It's interesting to note that this video called "Don't Rush to Enlist" has gotten some very few new views over the past 2 years. Well, buying my first car in Germany by the same guy went from 2,700 views in 2018 to now over 25,000 views as of this week. So what do you think might explain this? Thinking about the YouTube algorithm that directs you to things that it thinks you should see next. This video is called "What You Should Know Before Joining the Army." And there are lots and lots of comments. I don't have time to show this video right now, but on the next page, so this is a link you can click if you go back over this presentation later, and you can watch her video. And the comments are on the next page. I'm not going to read them all, but they're just typical comments, you know, young people. I just want to join because I want to be somewhere in life. I'm 13. When my age is eligible, I will join just for benefits. I'm 14 and I want to join because I'm depressed of this shit civilian life. So anybody can reply to these people. And then if you were to get blocked, you could bring up, why are you getting blocked? There's a lot of these kind of keeping it real videos by active service members. They talk about what's not good about military life. I think these influencers like Rhonda create a sense they can be trusted to be honest because they talk about real things that aren't so fun. And they typically respond to basically all or most of the comments. I don't know if anybody here listened to this podcast called Rabbit Hole, but it's really, really an important lesson on how the YouTube algorithm works to filter content for maximum influence. It's actually about how people get radicalized into like right-wing or white nationalist movements, but it could apply to anything. And also, if you listen to it, you learn how YouTube actually has made changes based on public pressure about harmful effects this model can have, which is encouraging. You don't have to have a New York Times subscription. I listened on Stitcher. And if you look at this presentation later, I'll have a link to that. Okay, let's talk about TikTok. It's not really about counter-recruiting, but I think it's really good to watch these young truth tellers on the platform that has been heavily used by recruiters. Open use of TikTok by service members has actually since been forbidden, officially forbidden, due to security concerns because of it's being based in China. But this should be watched as it seems likely that some form of unofficial recruiting is most likely still happening. TikTok is fourth in popularity with 14 to 18-year-olds and second among 19 to 25. So this is a really short video. I liked it a lot.
I'm gonna go up to random people asking them why they joined the army. Why'd you join the army? Camaros. Why'd you join the army? I hate myself. Why'd you join the army? I don't know. Frost. Why'd you join the army? I hate my life. Triple, why'd you join the army? This gourmet food. Gourmet food. Hold on. Why'd you join the army? I thought I'd be allowed to eat in peace. Fuck you. Flores, why'd you join the army? Hey, Holmes, why'd you join the army? Why? Yeah. Hey, why'd you join the army? Why'd you join the army? Hey, why'd you join the army?
I don't know, man. I thought that was a good idea at the time, bro.
Hey, Bullard, why'd you join the army?
Money.
Why'd you join the army?
I'm down retarded.
So in October of 2019, a couple of senators got concerned about the security aspect of TikTok, and they requested a thorough review of the app by the intelligence community. They thought it might present a national security risk. It wasn't out of concern for the kids being targeted, of course. So it stands to reason that if a similar platform that's not based in China or somewhere else like that were to start being used for recruiting, it would then be okay with those who wanted it off TikTok. There's going to be...
Michelle, you're about halfway. You're a little over halfway.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me hurry up. So there'll be a link to this story as well when you go back to the presentation later. Okay, esports, something else I never paid any attention to. I saw my 13-year-old nephews doing it one time. They were playing a first-person shooter, and I had to leave the room, but it's come back to haunt me now. As part of new recruitment efforts, the U.S. Army, Navy, and Air Force have all launched esports teams. And only the Marines have said it wouldn't get into esports. They probably will later, but who knows. So basically, they're online competitions in which professionals like video gamers compete against each other. They have different genres. They participate in the games and win huge prize money. A lot of young people actually want to make this a career now, and I've heard it's going into the Olympics. Okay, Twitch. Here is Twitch. This is the Army's esports team Twitch channel. It has 22.9 thousand followers as of this week. And if you don't know Twitch, it's a live streaming platform where users are able to stream what they are doing real time. They can broadcast their gameplay or activity by sharing their screens, who can hear and watch them play live. Typically, gamers use it to show other users tricks and tips on how to complete levels. Okay. And in the summer of 2020, there was this flurry of attention around this. Maybe you could call it a scandal. Some of you probably are familiar with this already. When the Army hosted false giveaways to bring kids to a recruitment page. I'm going to play this video. It's kind of a great short summary of what happened there, and it also leads to the next point.
The U.S. Army is the U.S. Army, I always found recruitment in the Army so creepy. Like how they show up to high schools and shit, and they try to trick people, and not trick, but they try to sell their services and stuff. But what they are doing on Twitch, I do find quite creepy. The Army and Navy started an esports channel where members of the military live streamed themselves playing video games like Call of Duty, Fortnite, etc. And the controversy began when people, okay, so it goes back a little bit. But what they were doing is they were doing a giveaway, like they were giving away an Xbox or something. And then when someone clicked the link, it would take them to the fucking recruitment page.
Sorry for all the cursing, everybody.
I mean,
so epic.
I mean, how is that comparable? Committing your life to the U.S. Army for a chance to win an Xbox. That is the most dystopian shit I've ever heard.
So it didn't make you sign up right there and then, but it was a sign up to start the process of, giving them all your info so they
But they say, they're like, hey, this is a giveaway
it.
page. And then you sign up to the fucking Army, dude. That's funny.
So I don't know who these people are, actually, but I found out they broadcast something called the H3 podcast. I found this account randomly, but I discovered these people have 2.14 million subscribers as of last September. And it's interesting that they're comedians is what they are, and they're interested in this issue. According to a website called Bleeding Cool, these content creators, Ethan and Hilda, of this production are perhaps more than any other pair of creators, the face of YouTube comedy. So who knew that YouTube comedians were on our side? I mean, of course we know that some of them are, but it's nice to see that and how big of an audience they have. Okay. Here's another video by someone you probably recognize about the same issue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to present this amendment by opening with the stance of the U.S. Marine Corps, which is that war is not a game. The Marine Service, and quoting the Marine Service brand and issues associated with combat are too serious to be gamified in a responsible manner. Now, this amendment is specifically to block recruitment practices and funding for recruitment practices on platforms such as twitch.tv, which are live streaming platforms that are largely populated by children well under the age of military recruitment rules. Children as young as 13 and oftentimes as young as 12 are targeted for recruitment forms that can be filled online. This amendment is in direct alignment with both those values, but also the values that children should not be targeted in general for many marketing purposes in addition to military service. And I think it's extraordinarily important, especially when it comes to emerging technology platforms, that intervention be taken extraordinarily seriously, because once these lights are turned on, it's very difficult to roll them back.
Okay.
Right now, currently, children on platforms
should just be able to go on. Yeah.
Okay. So talking about that last one, let's see if it's going to be quiet. Okay. So of course, there are many other online gaming platforms to be aware of. One of my students told me he sees recruiters chatting with players on the PlayStation Network, for one, which is a gaming and media content distribution service through Sony Corporation. So there's, of course, Twitch is not the only one. The House of Reps struck down AOC's proposal. Hopefully there will be more. For now, it seems we have to rely on the platforms, the military, and the social media companies to regulate themselves, which I wonder about. This is a story on the Young Turks. It's about 15 minutes long, so I'm not even going to start to play it. But again, when you go back to look at this presentation, you can watch it. It does a good job of describing the whole thing in more detail. I couldn't find any new developments on this that happened after the media attention that came around it last summer. I don't know if anybody else has. It's something to keep an eye on, I think. It's also good to note the range of journalists and elected officials who are interested in this issue. This video, I think, is a really good review. It goes into more depth also. Again, no time to play today, but please go back through the presentation and watch it when you have a chance. Again, I think there's a lot of new allies out there to help build an online presence. We could engage youth in peace clubs, CR-minded veterans, and other allies who are online gamers and active in this world already. Okay. I don't know if any of you know this guy, Jordan Ewell. He's a progressive activist. He was banned from the Army Twitch when he started asking about war crimes. This is a really interesting article. I encourage you to go back and read, and the link is there for you to go back to later. The channel has videos going back 2 months. That's the Army's esports Twitch channel, okay? Some people decided to start asking about war crimes on the channel, and they were banned within 15 minutes. The ACLU has gotten involved, saying that it's a violation of First Amendment, so it's getting some wider attention. Okay, and this is just an image that shows that there's such a thing as esports personalities, which is something I learned this week. So that's about esports personalities and influencers, and this is around that story about Jordan Ewell and other people peppering the Army esports Twitch channel with questions about war crimes. If you're on Twitter, check it out. Here you can see what a Twitch page or channel actually looks like, in case you never have, which I hadn't before. This is Jordan Ewell, the guy I was just talking about. He's known as Really Chill Guy. He has 4.1 thousand followers. Here's the US Army's esports team Twitch channel. 22.9 thousand followers as of this week. So you kind of get a sense of what they do. There's different games that people play live, and they share them, and lots and lots of chatting and conversation goes on while they're playing the games and also after. Turns out that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a gamer, and she has her own Twitch channel with 1 million followers currently. Here she is playing with Ilhan Omar and some other people. It's really interesting. She's playing this video game, and then people are in lifetime asking her questions about politics. It's really interesting new world. So what are your thoughts about engaging with esports players and people on Twitch? That's my next question. How much more time do I have?
About 3 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, so let's take 1 minute, maybe if people want to just share thoughts that you may be having after seeing all this. I know it was a lot in a short time, but just fresh off your mind, what do you think about counter-recruiters trying to get active in some form in these spaces?
So a couple comments. You know, the gamers are it's a different world. Some folks are asking if Ocasio-Cortez may be doing a counter recruitment, and you know that we don't have. Someone's reminding us that we may not have the same resources the military has.
So I'm going to end with a question. Another question, I should say. Might activists pressure social media and gaming platforms to develop and enforce policies and stop certain practices? That, in combination with actually engaging with people who are on these platforms by commenting, could be very powerful. For example, this is just one example, activists might work to get YouTube to make a policy that military vloggers who are receiving compensation or other benefits to recruit online must post that prominently. I didn't share the comment that Pat Elder wrote in 2017. He was researching that same issue of these really slickly produced YouTube videos, that there's no way these are just regular soldiers and service members making these videos on their own time. They're clearly getting paid to do it, and everything that is coming through these videos has been vetted and approved by higher ups. So why not try to force them to post that so they're not pretending to be just regular soldiers or something similar. And when you listen to the Rabbit Hole podcast, you're going to see how pressure has actually worked, at least on YouTube. So it gives you some hope that could happen. So thank you for checking out the presentation. Thoughts, questions, next steps, where and how do we keep this discussion going and work together? So I think we have time for questions at the end after the other people. So
we do.
And here, thanks everybody.
Thank you very much, Michelle. So next up is Gary. He's going to go over social media best practices.
Okay. I'm Gary Girardi. I work with the NNOMY office. We do a lot of the outreach. We do a lot of the social media organizing, designing as well. And we're also learning how to do all these things. We are not experts on this. We're learning as we go along. And this has been very helpful. Michelle's presentation is useful. I'm going to present first sort of a best practices on social media. It will cover 3 platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's sort of a generic best practices, but it's been tailored for counter recruitment a little bit, mostly in the examples that we're showing. So you can share my screen. Hold on. I put counter recruiters in the front of this group of generic people. Hopefully we can stand in front of this dilemma of our militarized culture and militarized youth. It's a hopeful symbol graphic. One of the best practices, we kind of posed the question here, best practices for counter-recruitment actors using social media during and after, with a question mark, the pandemic. So just to suggest, we may not be returning to the world we had before the pandemic in terms of counter-recruitment. So it's not that we won't go back to schools, I'm sure we will, but the world generally has changed. The importance of social media is, the active use of social media obviously is a way to promote issues and to foster, concern for those issues. That's an important issue and function that social media serves. And integrating social media into youth and counter advocacy allows defenders, in our case, activists, to spark interest in our issues, to spark a discussion around our issues, and to develop a community around our issues and goals. Counter recruiters can use social media to share important information as it happens, expand reach to include broader, more diverse audiences, personalized messages that can be tailored to specific audiences, and facilitate interactive communication and public engagement. Then here's the do's and the don'ts that are recommended for social media in general. Have a strategy. Be aware of your content, where you post content, and why the content was posted on that specific platform. Use a consistent voice that your followers can easily and readily identify. This next one's important. Post regularly. Actively post content to ensure that followers have not forgotten about your campaign or issue. Go where the people are. Understand your target demographic to appropriately determine which social media platform is best to use. Encourage participation. Engage with followers by asking questions and responding to them. I know a lot of us feel like we don't have time to do this. This might be a good opportunity to find interns that are particularly young interns that are interested in helping and need possibly to satisfy some intern requirement in school, to have them work in conjunction with you and be responders to the things that get posted on your social media channels. Edit images. Ensure that your images are well cropped and appropriately sized for each platform they're being posted on, so the images do not appear cut off or pixelated when posted. That won't be the case with this presentation because I have some really bad images, but it's important to recognize that each platform does have sort of requirements about what size images they accept and which show best on their particular social media platform. Interconnect accounts that cross-reference your different social media applications and use posts on one account that lead followers to another. In the case of Instagram, which we want to use more readily now, as we're going to see that more young people are using it. Instagram and Facebook are the same company, and you can actually make a setting in your Facebook that will post your Instagram and vice versa. So that's a good thing to know. Things that you shouldn't do. Don't overshare. It's important to post consistently, but not constantly. Remain a familiar presence in your followers' feeds, but don't overwhelm them. That's important. Don't be repetitive. Try to use different images and videos and text so your followers don't kind of second guess what you're going to say and do, and they become disinterested and they disengage from your social media channel. Don't automate. Write original messages depending on social media platform and its intended purpose. We will have sort of a later mention of a program called Buffer that does allow you to sort of automate your posting. It's not necessarily applying to a lot of you, but in the case of NNOMY, where we run, I think, 9 different social media channels, we do have to do that in order to plan ahead on particular holidays or events coming up. And we do design a campaign, social media that are specifically branded for those days. And we use a platform that allows us to put things in a queue. And so we don't get overwhelmed with work all at once and have to babysit our social media channels like every day. And don't abuse hashtags. Hashtags are great and they're really important, but you can overdo it. Make sure that they're well contextualized and a clue. For example, like the delayed entry program or issues like ASFAB or things that are related to the military's tools and mechanisms for getting information from young people or getting their attention. It's good to use some of the hashtags the military use, specifically if your particular posting relates to what they're doing. So when that hashtag gets used, counter-recruitment messages will come up as well as the military's. We'll first cover Facebook. Facebook is the world's largest social media platform that enables you to share links, images, and posts on a customizable page that can imbue your advocacy with personality and character. Sounds like an advertisement. Best uses, creating and promoting events. Facebook has a good events section. NNOMY actually goes around to the various groups that are in our national directory, and we actually aggregate your events. And if we feel they're more appropriate to our mission or a larger issue of sort of cultural militarization, we run a concurrent events calendar that includes many of the events you guys post on your particular Facebook pages and in your locations. Provide updates on news relating to your cause. That's important. And it's important because we share those too. When we see things you post, we oftentimes share that information. Sharing photos and videos of your work, that's clear and that's important. And sharing personal stories, it's really good and good for our ranking. If people actually tell stories and share information of what's happened to them in their Facebook page, that gives a lot of motivation for people to leave comments and share their stories as well. Here's some professional tips. Facebook actually has what they call business pages. A lot of us that started this a long time ago really weren't aware of that because it hadn't quite happened yet. And we established our Facebook pages when it was all about personal pages. But if you're setting up an organizational page, you need to set up a business page. It has different functions and different capabilities than a personal page, including the limitation on how many people can follow you or rather be your friends. It's important. Business pages also look similar to personal profiles, but like I said, they have tools that are designed for organizations, including nonprofits and social justice to a lesser extent. But a lot of the things and tools they offer can sort of be, configured to serve and function for social justice causes, and they can also be configured to service and function for counter-recruitments. Number two, add call to action buttons at the top of your pages. Facebook offers the ability for you to add a button to your post. This can be really important if you want them to do things like go to your website or watch a video. I mean, I don't know if we're going to play games, if we're going to do counter-recruitment games, but the contact us, the sign up, the watch video are good uses for counter-recruitment groups. Here's some insights is a area within your administration section of your Facebook page. It's an analytics tool, and it gives you a good sense of what's going on with your page. Particularly what you want to follow is your engagement, to see what particular postings you made are getting more reaction and more engagement. And basically those insights help you learn how to better use your Facebook page and have it be more successful. Here's some samples from Facebook posts that are on this from our different Sierra network. This is one that NNOMY posts about our back to school kit for recruitment and school demilitarization organizing. We actually run a dedicated Facebook page for the promotion of that resource. I won't go there because of time constraints, but you can see below it's listed and it's available in down below in the resource section. There are links to all these things. You can see them later. Here's a posting that was done on Facebook promoting the last webinar we did that was on how to get into schools and how to strategize doing counter recruitment during the pandemic. This was on Project Yano's Facebook page. Here's a posting that was put on by we're sharing here is from the Yaya network in New York. They're using this to promote their Zoom conference they had to help promote greater youth activism within their group. And placing it on their Facebook page also allows it to have a longer life beyond those that participated in it. People that follow their Facebook page can then watch what went on during the Zoom conference. It's a good use of it. Here's a group from that some of you might be familiar with, Whatcom Peace and Justice Center. They used their Facebook to showcase their counter-recruitment in schools, obviously pre-COVID. But this is important to demonstrate the importance of going into our schools and setting up and passing information out to students. This is an example here from Stop Recruiting Kids, which is a project of Honor of Peace. Here they're highlighting a project that's being organized right now by Project Yano and on reviewing the JROTC textbooks to reveal what they're actually teaching the cadets in the JROTC programs nationally. By the way, this is an important project, and I think they still need people that are willing to register to read books and help sort of define things in those books that seem out of the untrue or propagandistic to promote militaristic values. And here's a group that's Facebook groups are important. This is one that's a dedicated group that was set up by Stop Recruiting Kids and NNOMY and some other organizations as well that particularly sort of a clearinghouse for counter recruiters to share ideas and alerts and information relevant to what's going on in the counter recruitment community. And then here's an example from Code Pink. This is within a group they set up specifically for a campaign, for their Divest from the War Machine campaign. And here they're running a post about getting the money out of putting pressure on Washington for lobbying Congress and the Progressive Caucus particularly on pressing on redirecting monies away from our bloated military budget and into important domestic needs that we need now more than ever. And then here's an example from Truth in Recruitment in Santa Barbara, that they're using it to recognize their community of activists and that work within Truth in Recruitment. This is an important function, in my opinion, to give recognition to those people that work with you. They have a very ample Truth in Recruitment program. They have a long history of doing this work in their area and having accomplishments, including making policy changes in their school districts. And this is sort of a celebration of that accomplishment here within the Santa Barbara area. Instagram. Instagram is a photo sharing social media platform that allows you to share a wide range of content, including photos, video stories, and live recordings. Similar to Facebook, Instagram can be used to advocate through visual content, and it's popular with young people. This is really important. Instagram has some of the highest following numbers for young people. More and more young people don't like to read a lot of information. They use that platform to distill issues specifically that don't require a lot of reading, but we can get the message out on issues that we feel that the young people should pay attention to, and maybe direct them to information that they can follow up to look into these issues further. One problem with Instagram is they don't allow you to do links unless you run it on a business level of the application. So it's important to maybe put the information there, but they'll have to follow that up on their own, unless you have a business account. Here again, it's showing you the best uses, looking at photos and videos of your work. The videos are important use here. Short videos especially, one minute videos are very useful here. Giving behind the scenes looks of your advocacy work, that could be useful, and also trying to generate interns for your work, or find allies in schools that might be willing to promote things in counter-recruitment through their peace clubs and so on. And then displaying coverage of events that you do as well, and also events you've had. Again, how are we doing on time, Libby?
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
Okay, we're gonna have to go a little faster.
7 minutes.
Okay, let me run through this pretty quick then. It's important to keep the quality of your images good and keep them formatted correctly for Instagram, or they will reject them. So be aware of that. And then also pay attention to your narrative. It's good, again, when you're doing campaigns, to look at it strategically, maybe to share a series of postings in a short period of time that sort of play on the same theme to sort of generate interest for people to follow it. Also, the use of stories, again, is an important use of it. They have a stories function. They disappear after 24 hours. But it's a way to sort of develop sort of a discussion with your followers and to maybe bring up issues that can get people to continue the discussion and maybe submit their own stories. And then that 24 hours gets sort of pushed forward and it can start sort of an ongoing conversation. Also change the link in your Instagram bio. Do it strategically. You have a little link in your biography section. Make sure that goes where you need it to go, for people to understand who you are and what your activism is. Here's some sample Instagram posts. This is one that NNOMY Peace shared that was from a Twitch video, where actually it's a kind of alerting people to the military using Twitch as a recruitment tool. Here's Truth in Recruitment, also using Instagram to alert about their policy changes that they were able to implement in their district through the Santa Barbara Unified School District. And this is sort of an awareness that's important for to recognize their work, but also to encourage other schools, teachers, and school administrators to consider that this type of advocacy for policy changes regarding the military in their district is an active activism that's going on, and there's concerns around it. And then here's Twitter. Twitter is very much, in my experience, I would say we have the most professional level of followers on Twitter. We have a lot, I've noticed we track our Twitter followers. We have a lot of professors. We have a lot of social justice activists follow us. We have some progressive politicians to follow us. Don't discount your Twitter. Keep it active. They don't always respond as often to your tweets, but they do follow them. And it's important also to post your actions and your campaigns on Twitter to spread awareness around what your project's doing, and also to promote counter-recruitment and youth demilitarization in general. Also consider Twitter does have a limit to what you can post in terms of characters, so you have to keep your messages brief. You can also you can send live Twitter feeds out on your Twitter channel, and so you can basically use it as a way of broadcasting. It's a broadcasting framework. You can keep visitors informed about your latest news information, what's going on with your advocacy. And also, again, curate good content through your retweets. Make sure that if you're going to retweet other people's information, that it follows within your level of concerns, and it complements the feeds that the tweets you do yourself. Here's some pro tips on Twitter. Thread tweets about the same subject matter. This can be used as a workaround for Twitter's character limits. It's important that if you get a discussion going, that character feed is not so important, because people will start adding comments and that will increase information on that particular issue. And then again, you can do live tweet events with Twitter, and organizations also arrange live tweeting sessions during their own events, so it becomes sort of an interactive framework. And again, it's sort of, like they call it bite-sized. So it's good for young people to keep things short and sweet and make things very easily understandable very quickly. And here's some examples of Twitter posts. This is one NNOMY posted. This is from an infographic that was done on Canva, a platform that we use for doing some of our social media graphics. And this is an example where they were explaining sort of the effects of PTSD on soldiers. And infographics are very useful, and they can actually be animated as well. They're good use of information and images. And then here's a Twitter post from War Resisters League, basically promoting an article that talks about white supremacy that was published in the Boston Review. Lastly, this is Canva. This is sort of a media creation. This is a graphic tool, very easy to use. I highly recommend it. It allows, and we'll cover this in future webinar when we talk about media creation. But this is a resource you should be aware of, that you don't have to know Photoshop. You don't have to be a graphic designer, but you can use Canva to make your posts. And again, here's an example of a Canva image post that was done by VFP Corvallis, promoting a Veterans for Peace webinar on AFRICOM from 2020. And then there's this buffer I mentioned earlier. Buffer allows you to schedule, if you run multiple channels on social media, you can plan ahead, and it's very useful to be able to plan your social media outreach, especially if you're developing campaigns. It gives you much more latitude. Here's an example of a post on Buffer, and you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of our media channels out there. And this is getting posted to those channels simultaneously. And here's an example how we use Buffer, and this is the paid version, how we use it on a campaign basis. So we run subject themes like, war is not a game, winning the peace, this is one of our campaigns, Code Pink, divest from the war machine, stop kids going to war, which is one of our dedicated pages, the Before You Enlist video, JRTC, so on. So that's my presentation on best uses for social media platforms, the 3 that we covered.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Gary. So
Okay.
so next is Selene talking about analytics. Are you gonna, is that pre-recorded? Are you gonna play that, or?
Well, Jesus is going to have to try to play it.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Selene, and I work for NNOMY in the area of social media content creation as an intern. And today I wanted to talk to you about why I think YouTube is a good network for you to include in your social media strategy. The first reason is how many people use YouTube monthly, how many active users YouTube has monthly. In YouTube's case, it's 2 billion active users. And then when we compare that to 330 million in the case of Twitter and 1 billion in the case of Instagram, I think that we can see that YouTube has a lot of active users. This amount of active users is only topped by Facebook, which has 2.7 billion. Added to that is the fact that in the United States, around 70 to 80% of 15 to 25 or 20-year-olds use YouTube. And this is depending on the source of your statistics. But the fact is that there are a lot of young people who are using YouTube, right? And this same demographic is the demographic that the military is targeting when it comes to recruitment. Added to this, these boons, in a way, is the challenges of working with YouTube. The main challenge is the fact that because it is a huge platform, then you have maybe around 700,000 hours of content uploaded every single day. So you really need to think of how you're going to attract people to look at your content, which means that the standard for content quality in YouTube is pretty high. And high quality content in YouTube usually means that the lighting, the sound, the video, and the editing are competent. The writing or the content in itself, as well as the delivery, is very engaging. The thumbnail, the title, and the description are attention grabbing. And all of this so that you have a greater chance of appearing in the recommended section for people, right? And then you have a greater chance of increasing your audience through the algorithm. Now, despite this great challenge, I do think that there is a hope for the content that NNOMY and the different organizations are producing, like the areas that they're exploring through their content, for them to have an audience in YouTube. And I say this because there are a lot of creators in YouTube who explore the areas of social justice and different topics relating to social issues. And I think that there is an unexplored niche, at least an unexplored so far, a niche of talking about the militarization of culture and specifically the militarization of youth. We see that there are a lot of creators who have really wide audience, like even 1 million or more people who follow them, who talk exclusively about topics of social interest. So I think that there is a possibility for us to get engagement in this platform, talking about our topics. Specifically, like this engagement would tend towards young people, which is also the positive. And those are the main reasons why I think that YouTube is a good platform to explore.
Okay. Actually, we did go out of sequence, but actually, I think it was more relevant to have YouTube covered right now since we talked about the other platforms. I can do the next one that was supposed to happen now.
The analytics. The analytics.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. And then we have a short presentation on Instagram after you're done.
Okay, it's got a timer on it too. Well, this is sort of Selene put this together. I'm sort of learning this also. It's kind of a comparison between the statistics on social media use between NNOMY and the military. As you can imagine, we are way in a different world than the military. But in general, there are some corollaries. Well, let's take a look in. We have 68 groups now within the NNOMY network. I mean, as we're all aware, that's down quite a bit from where we were in our peak in 2008. But of these 68 groups, here's the breakdown on how many are using social media and how many aren't. So out of 68 organizations, we have 55 that are using some form of social media and 13 that are not using any kind of social media. And that is a concern because, really at this time, this day and age, and trying to appeal to younger generations and now going forward, Generation Z and likely Generation Alpha after that, we really need to be doing activism online. So out of 68 organizations, 81% have created an account on at least one social media network, while 19% have not. Here's the distribution of groups within different social media networks. The most popular networks for groups in NNOMY is obviously Facebook. And then for NNOMY ourselves, the office, our role is to talk to the groups and not to the general public. But that doesn't necessarily reflect what's going on here. So the groups that do counter-recruitment, of those numbers, most are using Facebook. And then you see Twitter is probably the second most common. 25 of those groups out of 68 are using Twitter. 19 are using Instagram and 17 are using YouTube. We've got to get those numbers up on Instagram and YouTube. because that's where young people are. Here's military accounts that were chosen because of their size and national scope. You can see the Army has pretty much wide coverage between Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. The Go Army is actually a recruitment account, and they're using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. The U.S. Navy is using Facebook, Instagram, Twitch now. They're going into the Twitch game environment, Twitter, and YouTube. The U.S. Air Force is using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. The U.S. Air Force is using Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But remember, the Air Force is now getting folded into the Space Force. So these numbers are going to start shifting. Space Force has a different level of engagement, and it's not represented in this chart. And then the U.S. Marine Corps uses Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. In terms of followers, you can see most of the followers that are following the military are following them on Facebook. This is sort of an aggregation of all the various branches of the military. And by far, Facebook is the most represented in terms of people following the types of information that the military is putting out. It's followed up by Instagram, and then Twitter, and then YouTube, and you can see Twitch is minuscule and compared to the followers of the other platforms. However, something to consider about the Twitch. It's different followers than people going in and watching. You can have thousands, even hundreds of thousands of young people going into a Twitch environment and watching a game, or on Facebook, because Facebook now is doing the gaming too, and not be represented as a follower. So that's something to be aware of.
Oh, God.
Okay, so here again, it says, but Twitch is much smaller on average. Subscribers, important to remember these factors. 41% of Twitch users are 16 to 24 years old, an important demographic for recruitment. Engagement in Twitch is more involved than in other platforms. Subscribers watch and interact with creators for many hours, several times a week, and they receive the military's talking points unchallenged. Basically, their encouragement to consider military careers and to engage in military recruitment tactics. This is Social Blade. Social Blade is a platform that allows, basically gives you an overview of your level of engagement and the success of your different platforms. Here it says Social Blade is a widely used analytics website. It calculates a letter grade based on a variety of metrics, including average view counts. And then it's a helpful tool for understanding how effectively your account is engaging its followers. Down below on the page of the announcement of actually the webinar page, we've included some links to all of your groups. And basically you can go in there and find your group. There's a spreadsheet, and you can click on the Social Blade link, and you'll see your grade and the kind of engagement you're getting. And you can also use it to compare it to other groups in our network. And again, you see that the level of analytics pretty much reflects all the other charts we've seen so far. And then the average grades, this next chart deals with the average grades with groups within NNOMY. This is, I'm not so clear on this chart, but you can see our high marks are basically on Facebook. We have lower marks on Instagram than we do on Twitter and on YouTube. I would say here, the thing to pay attention to here is we got to get our Instagram grades up. We got to, if you're a group working with the community and you want to reach young people, we've got to make a better impact in Instagram, not on Twitter. Twitter is much older demographic, and that's an issue. And then last here, average grade per platform. Again, Social Blade is widely used analytics. It calculates a letter grade. It's helpful to understand how effectively an account is engaging with its followers. I'm not as clear on this particular chart. That's the end of this particular presentation. So
Okay.
to the next one.
So, Sai, are you on the call? I think we may have a missing presenter. He was going to spend 5 minutes going over some of the do's and don'ts with Instagram.
Okay.
I'll try to reach him.
Should we open up for questions in the meantime?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then if we find Sai, we can go back to the Instagram. So we're open for questions, guys. Question away.
And you can type your question in the chat box, or you can, if you're on the phone, just let us know that you want to ask a question. I know I see a few folks on the phone.
Rick's got a question.
So, question from Rick: how are stories on Instagram different from stories on Facebook? Gary?
I can't answer that question. I'm really not that informed on the story function in either platform. That's something I need to follow up on.
Just from my own perspective, they're very similar. As Gary mentioned, they both disappear within 24 hours. One of the things I think cool too about the stories is that the stories would be shown on top of the profile. And depending on how much you interact with that person or that organization, it may show first. And it doesn't get lost. I think that the stories versus posting is that posting can be easily lost based on your the way that you're interacting, but the stories will be more present but would only last for 24 hours. Any other questions from anyone else?
I think Sai is getting on, according to Pat. So, do you see him yet?
I don't see him yet.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
There you are. So are you gonna give our little Instagram lesson?
No, this is someone else. This is Bart.
Oh.
Yeah, my name is Kip Goodwin. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
This is great. Okay, here at 808 Truth to Youth in Hawaii, we're having a existential problem with Facebook, Instagram. They will take our money and boost our posts about alternatives to joining the military, but they reject our posts about truth in military. Is anyone else having this experience?
I can speak to this. Kip, we've gone round and round with Facebook around these issues. They've been pretty bloodied by their time in front of Congress, and so they're on alert for anything political. We actually had to go through the process of going to a notary public and having an affidavit signed that I was who I was that was doing the posting. That we had to also they sent a letter with a code in it to our office, and then that code had to be put into a special place to finally get the right to post and actually boost. Because not only were we having problems getting any kind of level of people seeing our political posts, but they were rejecting all our boosts. They were turning away our money. And what I've experienced is even when we jump through all their hoops, they've got sort of a list of words to set them off. So I think the algorithm has been trained to look for certain words, and if those words are there, they cut down on the level of people that can see your post. Back in the day, if you had 5,000 viewers, followers, a lot of them would see the things you sent out. Now it's very, very small percentage to actually see what you sent out. And it's principally those people who follow you and are fairly active now on your site. So even when you boost, if it's overtly political, they will just reject the boost. So we found ways around this sometimes by doing this by clever wording, or we do it sometimes by graphics with clever wording and do sort of kind of a backdoor approach to engaging in a controversial issue. Also, more people are starting to move. They're doing social justice work and political work. They're abandoning Facebook and going to WeMe. Sorry, MeWe, which is an alternative Facebook that does not engage in that behavior. And neither do they claim. They don't track your information and probably turn it over to the NSA. So that's been our experience.
So Gary, what I would suggest is also that you maybe want to type your email in the chat, Keith. So if you need to follow up with Gary, and he can tell you a bit more about how he went around it.
Okay, well, that's helpful. Can't say it's real encouraging. You just, in a CR post, you certainly use some words all the time, referencing the military. So that's a tough one.
Well, I can imagine the militaries there's been some pushback by the military about this. I mean, the military is a big client for Facebook too. They spend millions of dollars on these platforms, so right. It's an economic issue for them as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thanks for your help.
Gary, sorry, do you want to include your email address on the?
Oh yeah, sure.
Any other questions? Yeah, so I mean, my question to you guys is if anyone wants to share from your group how you engage in social media.
Maybe we could talk about what areas each of us is maybe struggling with. What particular platform is a challenge to you?
Maybe you could talk to Jesus about American Friends Service Committee, some of their experiences with their different campaigns on social media.
Sure. I mean, I'm not expert and I don't manage our social media, but yeah, I mean, we are present in almost every social media. We do have a department, it's External Affairs Department, Media Relationships, that engages with different social media. And I think, one thing I do notice is that, as Gary mentioned, we use different platforms to reach different audiences. So Facebook, we use it to use, people over 30 and up. Twitter, we use it to connect with reporters and with elected officials. Instagram, we tend to use it more for like a younger generation and target certain posts. One thing that we noticed that has been really helpful since COVID is engaging with them through chat, video chats. So we have been doing once a week video chats. There's a way that you can connect your Zoom with your Facebook and have reports. So and the good thing about that is that it's gonna stay on Facebook forever. So you can have a 15 minutes video chat with your staff that is doing counter-recruitment, and it will be there for forever. So not only are people seeing it live the way that Gary kind of showed us that Jaja was using it, but it will be there so other folks can access it later on. And I see that Anne has her hand up. So Anne, do you want to share something with us?
I just wanted to ask a question that when you talk about video chats, with whom are you talking about chatting?
So you are recording, so you are on Zoom, and it is doing it, and you are at the same time you are watching it live on Facebook or other Instagram or other.
Let me take a step. No, that's not really what I was asking. I'm talking about chats. You talked about having video chats, which I'm assuming I'm as the organizer in organizing a video chat with somebody. And who is that somebody? Are you talking about like an elected official or?
No, I'm talking about like people that follow you on Facebook. So, you can potentially have folks that will be seeing you live on Facebook.
Oh, chatting with me directly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for some reason they want to talk to me when I come up on Facebook. I was thinking more that you were inviting like local movers and shakers to be on a chat with you, but you're not.
We do that too. We do that too.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So I see that you're in the meeting. Do you want to go and do your presentation?
I'm not sure he's ready, so he was going to send me something.
Okay.
Written.
I can go over the resources really quick. I have them all lined up.
Okay.
I want to look in.
So before you do, I just want to make a note that we posted the link, and Gary will probably go over that again. So all the content, including a recording from today, will be on the NNOMY website, and Cy's portion will be posted there as well. All right, go ahead, Gary.
I mean, these are the resources that we've added for this webinar, and here's what they are. This is what my presentation was that you saw earlier, and this is just as in a PDF version. Okay, you see it now. There's the agenda. There's the resources from the webinar. There's the presentation that was done earlier as a PowerPoint. This actually links to Social Blade links. So for example, you can see how your organization is doing on these different platforms. Let's do yours. We'll take Facebook, we'll take American Friends Service Committee. This is their page on Facebook. You can see their ranking. They get a B minus. It's actually about almost everybody gets a B minus. Don't feel bad. It shows you're the 104,000th most popular page on the internet. It's not bad, really. And then in terms of your talking about rank, it's pretty high. You can see a lot of people are talking about AFSC. They've got generally like what yesterday, or like say in January, it looks like, when this was document was established. Let's see, what's the latest one? Here's a more recent one. Here's from today, 1,500 people talking about AFSC in some form or fashion on Facebook. That's good to know. If we go back, if we look at you on another platform, let's look at your Instagram report. Here you can see again how many your followers rank. You can see your engagement rank. It's pretty high. It shows sort of your monthly ups and downs about your level of engagement. Okay, I'm not going to show like more because you guys can go and you can check out your own, and don't feel bad if you don't have a good grade, because most of us in this network do not have a good grade, including NNOMY. NNOMY has a better. Ooh, what is that? Please. Okay. So this is one example of a resource that's very useful for being able to kind of measure your level of engagement. This is a report here on Social Blade also with links to reports. This goes directly, this is the military's version, all right, of what I just showed you, all right? So here is the US Army. If I click on their Facebook link, you will see their levels of engagement. They are like the 4,000th rank. That's a lot better than 250,000, you can imagine. And then you can see in terms of how many people are there currently talking about the US Army, 64,000, much higher levels of engagement. Well, that makes sense. And they've got the money, they've got the wherewithal to accomplish this type of exposure and engagement. And again, we
Can you do the Army's Instagram just out of curiosity to compare to Facebook?
Sure. There's their followers rank, pretty high. There's their following rank, and then there's their engagement rank. And then here again, this is yesterday. amount of people who were following, 248, not so many on that platform. I don't think that platform's that useful for them. If it is for, well, actually, yeah, it's pretty low, actually, isn't it? Now let's look at their Twitch. So it seems there's still stuff that are ready to be defined out of this. Okay. Anyway, you get the picture. This is how that function works. This is the presentation I made earlier. This is available as a PDF, as a resource also. This is a directory of our social media accounts also, and it shows you pretty much who has what. So if you're interested to know, does somebody have like a ringing noise? I keep hearing a bell. Really annoying. You can see here the various groups in our 68 groups. You can see what they have and what they don't have. It includes their website. It would be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and then it has any social media. Most people do, or if they don't, it'll say no. So that we have that resource up there for you to check. This also here is a PDF that shows that's the military's PDF. It shows here the levels of kind of a review, kind of a synopsis, a spreadsheet on what you were seeing earlier from basically from the application of Social Blade. But it's charted too to show the level, the general picture here. And then this is the same, and then this is the same, here we go. This is an earlier document we produced showing the military branches using social media. It's already out of date. It's from the third quarter of 2020. It shows basically there are links to their social media pages here. You can go and actually click on these links. It shows how many subscribers they have. Here's Army JRTC. We did include JRTC in this particular report, which I think is useful. You can see in the third quarter of 2020, they had 6,000, they had what, 6.13 thousand subscribers? I'm sorry, I'm not sure about that number. Let me check it here in the link. And here's Army JRTC on YouTube. Okay. So there's the same. It's almost the same. There's not a big difference in the amount of people they have. They have had an increase. So from 6.13K to 6.29K. So it's also a way of going back and kind of seeing a rate of growth in these particular social media platforms. Okay, so I think that's it for me for now. Let me stop sharing.
I think unless there's more question, we can wrap it up, guys.
Okay, are there any more questions in the chat?
All right. Thanks, everyone. Look in the future for everything to be posted on the NNOMY website.
Well, also another issue, I mean, we're going to do another one in March, and I think there's a date sort of established for that already.
Yes, the date is
13th.
March 13th, Saturday, March 13th, same time.
Here's the deal. We're gonna do a content creation and we're gonna propose a group project. But I think what's more important in that moment, that we come together and we talk about what we'd like to do as a group project. Because one of the problems here is it's the algorithms of these social media platforms. They're defeating us because they're managing to subvert our message. And one way around that is by us organizing and sending out campaigns together and, kind of flooding a particular issue on multiple platforms at the same time. So we could discuss on March, if people are interested, and I think even if a few are interested, we will do this. We'll set up some, a theme, whether it be women having to register for selective service, or JRTC expanding in the schools, or ASVAB, or whatever. We'll pick a theme based on everybody's agreement what they think is best for the moment. And then we'll establish a little, nothing complicated, but a little campaign for social media. And then we'll track the metrics on it and see what kind of engagement we gain. And we'll see how it felt to kind of organize together to do social media together, which I think would be a very useful exercise. That's all.
Okay.
Rick says he has a question for me in the chat.
Yes, I do. Thanks. Hi, Michelle. Hi, everybody. I believe that face-to-face recruiting is going to return in schools. It's inevitable. Okay, the military can't function meeting its quotas the way it is right now when the economy begins to improve. And besides, recruiters prefer face-to-face recruiting. So what I wanted to hear you say, Michelle, is what you think about how quickly that's likely to happen in the context of the political pressure that's being focused on schools to reopen, and secondly, the growth in vaccinations. How soon do you think face-to-face recruiting in schools will be able to happen when schools are open to in-person education?
So you mean after they open in-person education, how much time do you think it's going to take for recruiters to come back to?
That's two parts.
Okay.
When are schools generally going to be back to face-to-face teaching? And then how quickly do you think recruiters would be allowed back in? Would there be any barriers that would slow down their access?
Okay, wow. Well, one thing I know is that it totally depends on the location. Like I've got a friend in Texas who's been back in the classroom teaching since the fall. And then places like Chicago, the teachers are threatening to go on strike because they're about to be forced to go back in. And LA, like our governor here in California just announced last week, he wants schools to reopen before teachers can get vaccinated. And at least with our union in LA, a strike is brewing over that. So it's kind of all over the place. It really depends on the local government and even the union and the, you know what I mean? Like the political conditions in each region. So I like, for example, in Texas where my friend teaches, I bet the recruiters are back there already. I mean, I could ask her, but once they let teachers back in without vaccinations, why would they restrict recruiters? I know that they have to get tested. The teachers have to get tested and the students, but all recruiters would have to do is the same, I suppose. But I don't really know. I just know it's not across the board everywhere the same.
No. I would ask her. And, you know, some school districts are different. I mean, one of the school districts around here went to a system like over a year ago whereby any outside group is only allowed in once a semester. Now, that was the new policy. So I think there's a lot of variety in school districts and how they handle that.
Yeah, so in both things, right? When schools are going to reopen in person, and that's huge variety, and then how often and when recruiters can come in. I mean, I know they're talking about opening up the schools here in LA first to little kids. For some reason, they start with little kids.
Right.
And up through the ages, so the high schoolers will be last. But my friend in Texas is a teacher in high school.
Ask her. I'd be interested.
Yeah, I will.
Michelle, I have a question. I mean, how do you think this is going to affect kind of recruitment groups in LA that were going into the schools to table the post-COVID?
Well, I think that anyone who gets vaccinated and is comfortable going back into schools would do it just the same as they had been before.
So you don't see this. You don't see the school district putting limits on counter-recruitment groups going back saying, I'm justifying that they're trying to mitigate spread by minimizing the amount of outside groups coming in.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. They probably could. I don't know how much tabling has been going on in LA, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
The same battles may have to be fought again that we did over the last 25 years. And we have grounds to say you have to treat us the same way you're treating military representatives. And so if there's a restriction or a condition that has to be met, it can't go beyond what you're applying to military representatives. But those are going to be struggles that will absorb time and energy. And we may have no way to avoid that. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, I think so. This is because I think it's also, it goes with social media. I think it's also gonna depend on, if we go into a recession, it's gonna be very different. I mean, the new CBO estimates doesn't put us back to the levels of employment until 2024. So there's gonna be a huge pressure for recruiters to recruit at that time, and huge opportunities for them to do it if we're not gonna have the same levels, which to me it also brings the point of we shouldn't only be posting about what's wrong with the military, but we should be also channeling folks to do alternatives to the military, and increasing that level and to create resources for folks that when we go to schools, we're not just talking about, you shouldn't join the military for X, Y reason, but to be clear and say, these are all the opportunities that you can take advantage of.
Sounds good.
Okay, so guys, I think we are over.
We're done.
So, we can talk next time.
Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you. Very good.
And watch for the March 13th webinar. It'll be a class project. It'll be really cool.
We'll make it fun too this time. I promise.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you all. Really nice work.